Hey guys, what's going on? You probably want to know, is now the right time to buy real estate, the wrong time to buy real estate? Maybe you need to be investing in gold, silver, or stuffing all your money under a mattress. On today's show, which is a brand new show, by the way, we're going to answer all those questions with somebody who literally controls $1 billion worth of real estate. And I think you're going to get a lot of amazing questions answered no matter where you are all over the world. So stay tuned for all new Visionary Show.
What if people from all over the world could come together to help businesses grow by sharing their insights, information, and their best ideas to drive real-world shifting change? In my life, I've been fortunate enough to meet some extraordinary humans with a giving heart and brilliant minds, and I'd love to share some of them with you. Welcome to The Visionary Show.
Hey guys, thanks for joining me. I am Jason Everett, and as I said during the intro, fortunately, some of the things in my life I've been able to do has been travel all over the world and meet some extraordinary human beings. And the guy I have on today, I am beyond honored and excited to have on because this is a guy who not only is an extremely amazingly successful person. He's authored several books. So he'll tell you about this in just a second. Several books, owns lots of real estate, and just has been an advisor to Robert Kiyosaki on the area of real estate for years and years. But he's just an exceptional human being. And I think you're going to see that as you meet him and get to know him through the show today, is that he just provides you with some really good insight. He's a down-to-earth guy. Feels like you're just hanging out and having a conversation with him no matter where I've hung out with him. So I'm just going to take a second, introduce you to a little bit of Ken, and share with you some of his insights on what he feels about what's happening in the marketplace today. So check this out, and then I'll bring in Ken.
My name is Ken McElroy, real estate advisor to the #1 best-selling financial author of all time, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. I'm also the author of the ABCs of Real Estate Investing, the Advanced Guide to Real Estate Investing, and The Sleeping Giant, Stories of Entrepreneurship. I've started several companies and have built a real estate portfolio worth over $1 billion. And throughout my journey as an entrepreneur, an investor, a company owner, and even a family man, I've come to understand that the results you get out is a product of what you put in. And if you really want to improve your financial situation and your life, head over to kenmcelroy.com and see what I have for you there.
What is up, Ken? How are you, man? Good to see you.
Hey, how are you, brother?
Dude, it's one of those things. I didn't think that we'd be in any sort of like global quarantine, maybe 30 days, 60 days. 30 days I would have known, but yeah, 60 plus days ago. So, dude, life is a different world. I'm sure it's a little bit different for you, but dude, I am so excited to hear your take on kind of what's going on today, what's happening in the real estate world, what's happening. Cause you just, right before you came on the show, you were like, hey, I was just on some pretty important calls, and dude, I'm just really excited to have you on today and let people ask. By the way, do me a favor in the comment section, light up the comments, guys. Tell me where you're on from. Tell me what city, what country, where are you from? And if you have any questions for Kenny, ask them, because this is going to be really epic. So good to have you on today, Ken. It's so good to have you, dude.
Thank you, brother. Thanks.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. This is going to be fun. I feel like I just pour myself into business and real estate and lender calls and all the, that's all I've been doing for 2 months. And so this stuff, honestly, it's just fabulous.
Yeah, well, dude, I think you were built for this time, right? We've been talking about this. Like I've heard you talk about this idea that this crash has been coming, and there's been some things that are, it's been kind of like we were overdue for a long time. And so a large part of why, just being really honest, I have felt comfortable with what's going on has been because of what you've said and what Robert said and what's kind of mentally prepared me, and we've prepared a lot of people. But like, just so I kind of know, like, where are you at just in general with what's going on right now? Where are you at with it? What's your general headspace? Because not everybody's probably in the same place that you are, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I just want to point out there's no way possible that anybody can predict the future, and nobody could ever predict, certainly what's happening now. But what I could predict is what was happening in the market as we were trying to buy. And we've been trying to buy for the last 3 years, and people have been jumping at deals and overpaying at deals, and capitalization rates have been driving down, but interest rates have been driven down too, and that was just propping the prices up higher. And so that's what I saw fundamentally, and that's why we exited, as you know, about $300 million worth of stuff in 2019.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I honestly, I was not trying to time the market.
Yeah.
There's no way to do that. And I want to be clear that, that's what people want to do.
Right. Everybody's trying to get in and get out at the right time and all those things, right?
Yeah. And I just, we bought really well, which is part of what you want to do. And then we sold a bunch of stuff at what I felt were, could certainly, we had made a lot of money. And I actually had hoped that the person that bought those from us, would make even more. But we had made a lot. And so that is the bottom line with, real estate fundamentals is trying to buy when the fundamentals are really good and the cash flow is really good, and recognizing when they're not, and then be able to have the discipline to exit at that point, which is kind of when everyone comes in, when it's really hot. And so it's almost the exact opposite of what you would think.
Yeah. So a lot of people were buying. Okay. So what you're saying is, and I appreciate you saying this because I didn't mean to say you predict the future, but I appreciate you clarifying. You were like, oh, by the way, you called me and said that there's going to be this Corona thing. That wasn't the case, right? You just said, look, there's something coming because you were seeing the market indicators saying people are overpaying. These crazy deals are happening. Like all these things are going on. And so it's just leading to where we are economically. Not that the coronavirus was this thing that people knew it was happening, but that the market itself was operating at this overflood of money and people coming in and playing. So you guys exited because people were paying a lot for what was going on. So it was a time to get out. So, dude, what I want to know, and again, if you guys have questions, type them in the comments because you can ask just as easily as I can. So if you're on with me live, go ahead and do me a favor and just comment live. But what are you guys doing right now? Are you still hanging out? Are you still holding? Are you looking for deals? What kind of things? And I know I want to say this too because I've been around with you and Kiyosaki for a long time. Advice giving is an important detail, right? If you need to do your own research, this is not just take Ken's advice and just immediately apply it. But I'm curious to know kind of what your take on what's happening right now because you see the trends very differently than the average person in real estate.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, first of all, I think you said a great word there, and that is trend. And I want everyone to know that we're now in a new trend.
Yeah,
period.
Good to know.
So I know that everybody's kind of focus on the virus and all that stuff is horrible, but the from a real estate standpoint, we are in a recession, and we're at the beginning. And so what we're doing is what I've been telling people to do. I've been doing these YouTube videos that have gotten some pretty good traction.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, thanks. We just put one out that got almost 300,000 hits in views in a week,
dude.
And essentially, there's what I like to call lag. And so what's happening right now is, as you blow up a recession or as you blow up an economy, it takes a long time to get that balloon big, and so it's not going to pop right away, and people aren't going to walk away from their stuff. And so what's going to happen, and what is happening, is we're at the very, very, very beginning of defaults. And we're going to have a number of real estate defaults, both in the homes because obviously people are losing their jobs, but also at the commercial level because a lot of the people that are using those services can't pay the landlords who can't pay the banks. And so all that stuff, Jason, is going to take, honestly, it's going to drag out well into next year.
Well, and I think the thing about that trend, and I love that you said trend because I think that's such an important word to pay attention to. It's not like, it's just there's things that are indicators in the market, right? And so that watching that trend, to your point, is like people are getting propped up by PPP loans. They're and we haven't even seen, because we're only a couple months into this, there's still people that could be hanging out that didn't make their payments a couple months ago, haven't had to leave their houses and properties and things like that yet. So that trickle effect of what's going to then come down later is really what you're talking about, is how far out are those things going to start to happen? Because I know I was talking to a real estate agent because, we've been looking for a building for our company, right? And been paying attention. He's like, yeah, everything's still kind of normal right now. It's like everybody's like, yeah, people are still trying to get same prices. Nothing's really on sale. Nothing's really it's just kind of in this holding pattern because, to your point, we're still kind of propped up at the moment. Is that a good way to say that?
Yeah, I think it's real estate is a convenience for the population. That's really what it is.
That's good.
And so, depending on what you're doing, you know, if you have a job and you're really bullish about that job, and you've got, pay increases, and the company's doing really well, then you're usually, trading up your home. If it's not, then it goes the other way. And we saw this in 2008 where people moved back into rental housing.
Mm-hmm.
During that bust. But on the retail side, I think it's the most apparent. So the retailers have been fighting against Amazon and Target and Lowe's and all the online direct to consumers already. Not necessarily in the services business like where you kind of hang out, but on the retail side. So the small retailer was already kind of on a shoestring on a lot of ways. And so what this bust is going to do, and this new recession that we're in, you're going to see, there's predictions like the malls are going to be opening back up, and they're going to have it, 50% vacant. And and if you think about the malls, for example, or any of these, let's say these regional centers, like I went and got my hair cut yesterday, and one of the big there's a massive gym right next door to this guy that has my barber.
Mm-hmm.
And the gym has filed chapter 11.
And that's what we've been seeing, right? Is a lot of companies are starting to file for bankruptcy now. Like that's just, again, first stages of that is starting to kind of come out.
Right.
And I have to ask this only because we deal with a lot of salons. Salons are open in Arizona. These are important questions to know.
Yes, they are. Yeah,
Okay,
he was
good to know.
wearing a mask while he was cutting my hair.
That's good. I just have to ask because there's some states that are like, he went and got his haircut. How dare he? So I just making sure he didn't have a black market haircut behind the scenes or anything.
Yeah, they actually opened on Monday.
Oh,
so
man, that's good.
I waited a few days because everybody went there on Monday.
I can imagine. So the gym next to it has already filed for bankruptcy. You're saying these malls are going to be closed.
Depending on what kind of bankruptcy they filed, but the point is that they have thousands of people in this gym, hundreds showing up every day, and the guy who was cutting my hair said, "Hey, if that thing shuts down, I'm in big trouble because everybody comes in here either before or after their workouts."
It's a great point,
and that is the issue. So
interesting.
Whether whatever in a mall, you've got J.C. Penney's that missed their payment. We've got a Macy's that is going down. Sears has already gone down. Neiman Marcus has filed chapter. So what you have is these big retailers with big advertising budgets and departments and floors of stuff that are bringing people into places.
Yeah, foot traffic.
Yeah, and then that's why the small guy survives. And so that's what I mean by lag, and that's what I mean by
interesting.
A trend.
Yeah, that's massive. I mean, I want to make sure you guys all heard this. I just want to repeat it and make sure it's in my brain too, Kenny, is like, this idea that I'm trying to think of I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, right? So in my mind, it's like there's those complementary relationships in the animal kingdom where it's like you got the whale and then you got the fish that lives underneath the whale. Like, I think this is what you're saying, just take me on my 3 and 6-year-old journey here, right? Is that you've got that big retailer that's bringing all that foot traffic, they're spending all that money, they're doing that. And then you got the little guy, you got the barber shop that's right next to one of those big things that relies on that anchor store inside a complex or all those other things. And so as that bigger store goes out, so we'll have a problem with that barber shop and the other things that are going on. Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Interesting. Dude, that's a really good point.
So the same thing with the regional malls, there's, and these are, these predictions on the regional malls, those are the ones you go inside and, you walk around and everything's there. Well, they're saying at least 50% are
when they reopen.
Yes. Regardless if they have the PPP money or whatever.
Yeah. Like just not going to make it through. Like they're just going to say, forget it. Because in a mall, you've got the same thing, right? You've got like big anchors inside the mall. You got the big things and you have all those other little stores that were trying to figure out what to do. But when they reopen, they're just going to go, forget it, can't pay the rent and be out of those smaller stores.
Yeah. And malls are typically bigger rent.
Yeah, because they have a lot of foot traffic typically.
That's right. That's right. So
interesting.
there's a lot there that's happening. We're seeing a massive correction with Airbnbs,
Right, that's a big thing.
VRBOs. Anything that was furnished housing. People are in big trouble because not only first of all they can't they can't do stays, and so they have the expenses of the mortgages and all those kinds of things. So
they're not getting bailouts.
That's why listings are going up. So you're starting to see a lot of supply in the MLS and the listing services, and because they have no income. So a lot of those people, unfortunately, are going to lose those.
Wow.
Because some people went all in that business. If I read an article in the Wall Street Journal about in London alone, the Airbnbs contributed to a 45% increase in the amount of listings in just London.
Whoa. Okay, so 45% increase in listings, just meaning because people said, look, we have an Airbnb, and a lot of those places, again, people who own this Airbnb, it's like that second property, but if they had to go a month or two without being able to make rent, which obviously they did, then they have to lose it, and they're just immediately listing it because they don't know how much longer it's going to last, basically, and if they can survive that.
That's right.
Wow. Interesting. 45% in London. Interesting. By the way, if this has been helpful for you guys, do me a favor and comment helpful. And again, as you guys have questions for Kenny, do me a favor, toss them in the comment section for me. Interesting. So Kenny, you had said something that I thought was really valuable about not timing the market. Yeah. I think, I thought you froze for a second there. You had said something interesting about not trying to time the market. But what I hear you saying about real estate right now is like we are just about to kind of like, the economy's doing what it's doing, but like the real estate, like the factors that are going on with, these malls and then B&Bs, and like we're just starting to see the beginning trend of that. And maybe I'm going to ask a novice real estate investor question, but I'm sure other people hopefully have the same question, is if you're not trying to time the market, what are you looking for as a condition? Because it's like, how are you going to hit the bottom and maybe the right time to grab it or whatever? But how do you look at real estate deals to know, or what's the trend that would be going like, hey, I'm sitting on cash, I want to do something in the real estate space. What's the trend you would want to see? Like after things go down and they start to come back up? They're going to need to get educated. Like maybe now is the time to start really investing in your real estate education and understanding what's going on. And obviously I'll tell them about your show too, but like, how do you try and pay attention to that so when the timing is right to do something, you're prepared to act?
Really, really good question. So here's what I used this term about a month ago, and I just kind of came out. How sometimes when you say
something magical happens.
Yeah, and I said, don't try to catch a falling knife.
Oh, okay, that's a good way to look at that.
And I, if you think about what that is,
interesting.
Real estate prices are going to go down. Occupancy is going to go down, and rent growth is probably going to go down, or concessions, you're going to start to see concessions. People have lost their jobs. A lot of these folks are definitely going to go back to work. I know the number is somewhere way north of 30 million. I don't know what the number going back to work is.
Yeah, like how many people are getting in there?
Call it 20, call it whatever you want, but there's still going to be a massive unemployment. So all of that stuff hurts real estate, all of it. So
yeah, because if they don't have jobs, they can't pay their rent, and it's all these other things, right?
Right. They're not going to go, they're not going to get that coffee. They're not going to go, buy that extra. They're not going to go out to restaurants as much, and all of the things that happen with your normal services. If they don't have a job, they're not going to hit the dry cleaner as often as they need. So all of those things have, their ripple effects as a result of this. And so it's far too early, Jason, to even be looking at that. And to answer your question directly, the sellers, the people that own these places, the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to try to save them and keep them. Mm-hmm. And so the first thing that they're going to do is look for some buyers. Well, there aren't a lot of buyers, and so they're going to have to go through that pain, unfortunately. And then what's going to happen is they're going to have to be faced with a situation. The lenders are either going to work with them or they're not going to work with them. Hopefully they work with them. If they don't work with them, they're going to lose these assets. Yeah. And the assets go to the bank. In all honesty, I wait until at that point. I wait.
Like when it's at the bank stage.
Yeah, like let's say you own something and you're trying to keep it together, and
Right.
half your tenants couldn't pay in an office building, and you would do everything in your power, based on your cash, and you've tried everything to maintain your credit and all those kinds of things. And the last thing, honestly, I would want to do is come in and do some bonehead deal and
When
man, you
my value is super high still, like I'm
yeah
still trying to maintain this crazy
yeah
high value.
Yeah, so you have in your
Interesting.
mind, and you probably have a loan on it, and the price, the value could be below that, and I'm not going to come in and pay off your loan for you. I'm gonna buy the property at what it's worth, and so it's easier for a guy like me just to wait until you sort all that stuff out,
Yeah, that's good.
and wait till it goes all the way to the bank. And honestly, that's going to be a while. We're talking a year plus on a lot of stuff,
Interesting.
and you just got to wait. And then even when a bank gets something, they don't write it down immediately. So let's say you have a couple $1 million office building and you've got a $1.5 million loan on it, and you have 500,000 in equity. Well, that thing might be worth $1 million, 2 million, 3. So you're just gonna fight
Yeah,
until
because I got that 500,000
yeah,
in equity that's there, so I'll do
yeah,
whatever it
yeah,
takes and figure out how
right.
I can beg, borrow, steal, whatever I need to do to
That's
make
right.
that work.
And everybody's
Mm,
completely different. And then I think you're going to
yeah.
find some centers. Like I have a buddy that owns I just play golf with him. He's got a nice regional center. They've got 14 tenants in there and only 2 paid.
Wow. Yeah, and by the way,
So
I had Garrett on back a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about how do you negotiate your leases and what kind of things are going on, and this was we were just chatting about like can you pay your rent, because a lot of people are saying, am I legally obligated to pay my rent, or do I get rent relief? And to your point, I mean, he was just talking about, it's like, look, there is no law that says you do or don't have, well, you do have to pay because it's this deal, but like you got to work it out with the landlord. And now to your point, these people are out there and standing like, sorry, I just can't pay, and that they're just dealing with that now as a different consequence. And again, maybe they were able to make that happen the first month, or maybe the second month, or when their PPP loan money comes through. But then now they're starting to have more and more challenges beyond that. So interesting. So you're playing the long-term wait game. The big thing that I'm hearing out of here, and hopefully you're catching this, is that you're saying really until it gets to the stage where it's a bank-owned sort of scenario. And even then, we got people are going to fight it out for a while. They're gonna delay. People are gonna fight and try and keep it. Then even the bank's gonna get it. They're not gonna write it down right away. So then we've got even a further stage to wait. What else do you kind of look for in that game of like paying attention to when is the right time to act? Because I think it's interesting to really hear this stuff from you. I'm super grateful for you being on. Hopefully you guys are too. Say grateful in the comments if you guys are grateful too. That's all I'm saying,
well,
man.
here's the nice part. We don't have to do anything now. You just have to watch. You have to watch and be patient. And you kind of talked about it. Education is everything, because real estate is not a sales job.
Yeah.
So in other words, like whatever office building, you and I have talked, and I know you've been looking for an office
Yeah,
building.
it's been on the list.
Whatever office building you are looking at is going to be worth less soon.
Yep.
And so and because those retailers that have a corporate, those corporates are in office buildings,
Yeah.
and so if you think about it, all the little businesses, a lot of little businesses, have to roll up into corporate offices in other places, and so they're not going to be able to pay rent. And so that's how it affects the office buildings and the office sector. Not in every case, of course, but and so you're going to start to see businesses close and corporations close that occupy commercial office space. And then, of course, this new normal of being able to communicate, people that have big floor plates of space, they're going to go,
Maybe we'll just go to home.
feet, maybe we can do this with 10.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Same company. And and so all that's going to happen. And so that's kind of the next wave for office.
Yeah, so that's okay. So just making sure I get that next point. So we've got this first delay of people fighting it out. Second delay, these Airbnbs, you got this coming out. Now we've got office complexes. They're saying we should get our people to work from home. It really wasn't that bad. Maybe we can adjust our work environment. Why are we paying for all of this office space that we maybe don't need, right? As a big factor in there. Okay, this is super helpful. Just kind of get, again, some more mind wrapped around this whole thing. And again, I think I know people that are on here have asked me this question just because they're like, should we be buying a house right now? I know individuals are trying to figure out like, hey, I can get loans. Loans are cheap. It's the right time. What is your thought for like the average person who's maybe, was already looking for a house, already looking for a building, already looking for things? What is your thought for them that were like, well, now I'm financially qualified to buy a house? Would you tell them, hey, you might want to wait a little bit because the house that you're going to buy in the next year and a half, 2 years is going to have a drastic drop in value potentially based on market conditions?
Well, I'm not sure it's going to happen everywhere, but I'll just give you a story. And so it's a really, really good question. It's actually the question everybody wants. But I used to live in Las Vegas, and I used to do a lot of business there. And so as you know, Las Vegas is shut.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the majority of the jobs in Las Vegas are centered around the casinos or the service business around the casinos.
Totally.
Okay. So I can assure you that going forward, there's going to be less people flying there, less people spending money,
Right.
less people. We used to say, hey, when you fly to Vegas, you spend $1,000, period.
Yeah, just to get there and do anything.
Your hotel room and your, the dinner, and
easy,
the bottle of wine and whatever it is. And so, okay, I saw this in 08. It's going to happen again. Okay, so let's just follow the trickle.
Yeah.
This means that there's going to be less people that can afford homes, and so the home inventory is going to grow. And so when home inventories grow, prices go flat, or there's more negotiation. So that's just Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But there are areas that are not hit hard. But I mean, look at tourism. Look at the areas around the cruise ships. Look at those kinds of things. Those are all going to be hit pretty hard. And and we're starting to see the small, like hospitality, the hotels are toast, man.
Yeah.
I mean, these people that own those little micro hotels, they're in major, major trouble because nobody's in them. Imagine, I talked to a friend of mine that owns a bunch of them. He's like, he's got full overhead. His people are on, furloughed, and he's not open. And so he's like, I'm dying, man. Like, and he still owes somebody because they're
still going to want to collect for sure.
Yeah. So, it's we haven't even seen the real aftermath. I mean, we are honestly, we're on season 1 about,
we're watching episode. We're watching 10 seasons of The Sopranos or Lost or whatever. We're on season 1 where all the panic things happen and people are doing crazy things. So that's good to know because I think there's some encouraging news about people starting to open up. I mean, I'm in California. It's really still closed down. We're on constantly with our in our salon space. We have people all over the country, and so as people are starting to open up, I think people are getting more optimistic. But to your point, there's still a lot of that fallout that's going to happen in real estate. The trend's way behind what else is there. Ken, you mentioned tourist areas. You mentioned areas that have, massive influx of people like Vegas that are destination centers, or that people that have a lot of, go to work employees that are just not there. Are there any industries right now that you think are more stable than others at the moment?
Oh yeah.
What's more stable in your mind for what's going on right now?
There's a lot, actually. Obviously healthcare.
That's a good point.
I've been talking to some people, and by the way, I'm not advocating this at all. I'm not advocating to invest in this area, but I've been talking to people that are looking at Cleveland because Cleveland has always been cheap. It never was in a bubble. And the Cleveland Clinic employs the majority of people in that area.
So the base of what the income comes from is from a stable scenario. I see what you're saying.
Got it. Yeah. And also, I've got friends that are in home improvement businesses, and they're just on
killing
fire.
It. Yeah, they're doing amazing right now.
Fire. I got a buddy that he has 100 crews that just do fences up in the Oregon area, and I spoke to him this week. He's already doubled his projected income for the year because
everybody's home. Everybody's home and wants to get their stuff handled. They're staring at their house every day, going that fence or that whatever, that kitchen,
There's a lot of winners that nobody's really talking about, but I've got a lot of friends, that have done very, very, very well during this.
Interesting, but it's good to know. I mean, I guess to your point is like, what are the trends? What do you pay attention to? What are those opportunities? So again, I guess going back on the other side, I love your analogy because I cannot forget it now. Like, are you trying to catch a falling knife, or do you pick it up off the floor once it's hit the floor? I think that's so clean, man, because it's easy to understand. So when you look for those deals on the other side, let's say the knife hits the floor, and we know because what happens? How do we know that we've hit the bottom of something, or do we just know because we start to see things trend back up again? How do we know?
Really good question. Well, first of all, once it hits the floor, it stays there a while.
Okay, it's not like tomorrow it'll be
stopped. Hit the floor at the same time. So you watch. That's a really good indicator. Because things will hit the floor, and every sector is different, every city's different, depending on employment and population growth and all those kinds of things. And some cities are going to rebound really, really, really well. But if you take a look at the big cities like LA and New York, people are moving out. Literally moving out
of the large cities. I'm seeing that a lot. I have friends that like lived in New York. They said, forget it, I'm out. They moved to Maine. They've moved to Utah, at least until things change. And it's like, whew, okay, that is going to be an interesting scenario, right?
Well, I was on the phone with a friend of mine today, and he said his girlfriend, who sells real estate, just sold 6 houses to 6 different families in Washington State. To Arizona. They said, we're getting out of here. And so I'm seeing
from
that
Washington to Arizona.
Yeah, I'm seeing that all over. And they're moving out of these big cities. So that's again a trend. And so
interesting.
Those potentially areas like New York, might take a pretty big hit, but areas. Other areas are going to benefit.
Yeah. So, okay. So in some cities, people are moving to, and I guess there's not really a way to go like, hey, where's everybody moving to that we want to invest in or whatever. But like you've said, you got to pay attention to what the trend is. Is it falling? Again, when that knife hits the ground, you'll notice because it stays there for a while. So
I'll give you one good secret.
Yeah, dude, you've been given tons of good secrets. It's not been one, bro. But yeah, give me another one.
So here's a great way to predict where everybody's going.
Okay.
Want to know?
Hell yes. Okay. You guys say hell yes in the comments, by the way.
There's 2 ways.
Okay.
There's 2 ways. These are some of the things that I look at.
Love it.
The first thing is, if you just think about it after I tell you, you're going to go, of course.
Yeah.
One is, honestly, U-Hauls and Hertz rental trucks.
Yeah.
Where are they going? So that, believe it or not, they're all tracked.
Oh, okay. Like meaning that they pay attention to where all the rental trucks are going.
Of course they do, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
The other one is out-of-state driver's licenses turned in, because in every state you're supposed to turn your license in. Not everyone does, but the majority of the people do. And so let's say like we could track next month how many out-of-state licenses were turned into Arizona, and that would be an indicator.
Is that something you like? Is that something you go to the DMV website to see, or like what is the like?
It's online.
Is this some secret ninja stuff I don't know?
It's the coolest stuff.
Interesting.
And I love to look at this kind of data.
That's some cool trend.
I don't take it literally, because you have to look at everything.
Yeah, it's one factor to weigh in on your decision, right? So you can find out where the population of U-Haul trucks and Ryder trucks and all those things are going. Like you can follow population like that. This is cool, man. Okay, so you can track that, and you can also track out-of-state licenses turned in of where people are going. So like which states are being migrated to. Interesting.
That's right, because the cops will pull you over if you have California plates in Arizona.
Yeah.
And you're pulled over, and they're like, well,
why do
you got an Arizona license, and a California license plate, it's a ticket, and
interesting.
And so that's why they start, so there's a process. Like I have a home in Idaho, and I drive my car up in Arizona from Arizona, and every single year I get pulled over up there because I have Arizona plates on.
Like, what are you doing? Nobody visits Idaho.
It's like, hey, where do you live? And I go, I live in Arizona,
Yeah.
But it's part of the, it's part of the, the state gets the money, all that stuff.
They want to make sure you're not staying there and not transitioning everything to being there.
Yeah.
Interesting. Awesome. Okay. Those are super good tips. And yeah, those are like just, dude, that's amazing. Like, I mean, it's like an insider ninja trick to kind of know what's going on with that stuff. And Kenny, dude, this is the thing for me, Ken, that I love about how you think is you just like you simplify things and you make it so like, oh yeah, duh. Like, why wouldn't you know these things? But I think it's just the fact that you've had so much experience and so much exposure to so much real estate. How would you advise people? Because again, I have a lot of clients that maybe own a building, maybe own one property, and they may have some stable income, right? Like your salon owners, we made it through on one side, and now that they're kind of in this other place, how would you advise them to be watching for like, as the market bottoms and they try to figure it out, what kind of things should they be looking for? Should they be looking for ways to expand their commercial real estate, their investment properties? Is this a good time to go, cool, I've always wanted to own vacation properties, so now I'm going to be a Airbnb, mogul when we come out of this thing on the other side? Like what are the things that you are talking to people about? What are the fun conversations you're having around what to do on the other side of this?
Well, there were approximately 17 questions.
I know. I do that all the time, man. It's my magical interview skill of like asking 12 questions at once. You pick what one you like.
I'm just kidding. Well, first of all, the first thing I would do if I owned a building is I would try to renegotiate the loan, and I would try to negotiate some forbearance, and I would, if you have a lot of equity in it, it might be a long time before it comes back, but if you don't care, so I don't really look at my equity. I look at my cash flow.
Right.
Yeah. I don't really care if my house goes down in value. I swear to God, I don't care. I don't care if a building that I own goes down in value. I care more about my operations, my cash flow, based on the debt that I have on it. So that's the first thing that I would do.
And by reducing your debt, you're increasing your cash flow potentially. That's the goal, right? It's like, so money's cheap. You can reduce that that piece of the liability that you've got, increase your cash flow. And so you're just playing with, instead of like, cool, my property's worth an extra $300,000 or an extra $1 million, you're just saying, I want to know how much more I can get out of the cash flow gap between what I owe versus what I get paid.
Right. And
good point.
The big lesson right now is, where are you from a leverage standpoint? So a lot of our properties, we have 40, 50, 60% leverage is all. And, to prepare for times like this, I know that we're not always going to have 96, 97, 98% occupancy. I know that from experience. If people believe that will be the case, then, that's their own flawed belief system. So, so you have to, but right now is a great time. We refinanced two loans, one at 2.8 and one 2.75, 10-year interest only, 30-year amortization on two apartment buildings that we own. And, and we didn't pull any cash out. We did cash out refis, and, I'm just trying to mitigate my debt expense.
Right.
And so that's number one. Number two, to answer your
one of my 16th question. It was at least 17 questions.
Yeah. The question was, when do you start buying? Well, again, so it's one thing to own real estate cheap, but it's another one to own it cheap with nobody that can afford it.
Good point.
And so,
good point.
Yeah. So now there are lots of ways to buy real estate. And there are lots of, and so sometimes, you can if you can find a vacant building and you can fill it with somebody who's doing well, you've made money.
Yeah.
And so that's the key. But there's a lot of people competing for that tenant now,
right?
Because there's a lot of vacant buildings and a lot of vacancies, and they're all trying to searching for those businesses that are doing well financially.
Got it. Yeah. Was there any more questions that you remember me asking?
Actually answered all of them.
No, you answered a lot. I mean, again, this is really helpful because I think that for people to try and figure out, what should they be doing? How should they be paying attention to it? And again, I've learned this from you and Kiyosaki is like, look, there's not only one answer. And by the way, just want to say up here a couple comments that just came in because there isn't one answer. It's just, how do you pay attention? Steve said, Ken, dropping some golden nuggets. Yeah, clearly Ken is super good at this. And John said on here, great info, Ken. Thank you for sharing, taking lots of notes. tons of pages. And same here, man. I mean, I feel like this is like my own private real estate mentoring session. I'm super grateful we can do it publicly because, you know, man, Kenny, like I just get so emotionally involved. Like, should I do this? Should I do that? And like, you know, I know as John McGregor was actually on here earlier too, he jumped in and we've been chatting. He said, great interview. So thanks, John, for saying that. But you know, it's like that. How do you take out any sort of emotional decision-making instead of just really penciling the numbers and making them work? I think is a really solid option. Ken, what are the things that people can do to start learning more about real estate right now? Because in my opinion, dude, this is the time. Learn your freaking face off about this because to your point, the knife is dropping. It's going to be there for a while. You got to understand. If you don't know what the hell we're talking about cash flow and gap and like refinancing your properties. If that's like, that sounds cool, Jason, but it's not my thing. Ken, where can they go to start learning? What resources do you have available? Because this has just been like, you've saved me like weeks and weeks worth of just guesswork on what the heck is going on. So what else can people find from you?
Thank you. Well, there's a couple things people can do. Honestly, what I tell everyone to do is to buy that cash flow game.
Yeah,
you know,
dude.
Everyone's home right now.
Mm-hmm.
Get that game. I just talked to Kim, honestly, an hour ago. You know, they just they completely flew off the shelf.
It's awesome, as they should be.
Yeah, because you know what, people are home. And, you know, their kids are home and it's a great time and it's a learning game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you learn about your balance sheet, you learn about your income statement, you learn about stocks, you learn about the fast track. You know, that's the whole point of the game. I actually think that is a phenomenal tool as a family to grow together and learn because you don't feel like you're learning. If you're ready to take it to the next step, you know, then of course we've done hundreds of videos on kenmcelroy.com.
Yeah.
And I've been putting up some YouTube videos that have been getting a lot of traction that, and just pour yourself into this is what people should be doing. I don't know. I'm sure John's the same, but Robert Kiyosaki probably says me 2 or 3 YouTube videos a day.
Yes.
You know?
I get all those de facto through Blair, right? Blair's like, Robert said to watch this. You guys all got to watch this.
And then he calls me and he says, have you seen it? You know, like 10 minutes later, I go, Robert, like 1, it's an hour long.
Totally.
2, no, not yet.
Yeah,
but I will
I'll get
watch
to it.
And, you know, I probably have 8 to 10 hours of homework just from him a week.
Sounds like Robert. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think there's a lot of places. And again, your YouTube content, totally free. I know you've got some membership programs that people can check out and things like that. But man, it's so helpful to hear you talk about this because I just think your perspective on it is really refreshing. You know, you've got kind of this patience and this experience in it that is super, super helpful for people to hear. So I hope, again, like I said, for all of you guys that are watching and paying attention to this and seeing what's going on, I hope this has just been super, super valuable. Let's see, because I've got one more question for you. I think John is asking a similar question. I say one, it's going to be like 15 questions, right? You're like, you know what's going on now. Let's see. John said, let's see if I can get this whole thing up here. So with rising property taxes, will rising property taxes affect the market if more properties are available? I've read lots of information about cities raising taxes to make up for lost revenue during lockdown. Great question. What are your thoughts?
That is a very good question. He's way ahead of the trend.
Yeah, John's watching.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, he's right. You know, we're definitely going to see rising taxes, and so if you think about real estate, there's you know, the way people evaluate real estate is based on a net operating income. Mm-hmm. So the income minus the expenses is the net operating income, period. So everyone has that, and so my belief is that market rents are not going to rise a lot in the next foreseeable future. We're going to have higher vacancy and people are going to be struggling on the income side. And so if expenses go up, which property tax is part of that, then you have a lower net operating income. And so therefore the property value is going to be less.
Right, because the banks can't evaluate it because, again, their net operating income is different. Interesting.
So the bank, what they do, Jason, is they lend you money based on your net operating income.
Right.
So if your taxes go up, your net operating income goes down, you're going to get less of a loan. Mm-hmm. And it's also going to be worth less. And so that's what rising expenses do. And so that's definitely something that could be trending.
Interesting. So this is my last question for you, Ken, and hopefully, John, that was a good answer, because I think that's super helpful to be aware of how that property tax is involved. Ken, my question for you is on inflation. We just did trillions of dollars in bailout. We had all of these things happening. They were proposing more bailouts and more things that are happening in multiple countries. How do you see inflation playing into real estate? Because is that going to be a big factor? I mean, the Fed keeps saying that they're like, we're going to still maintain, 2% inflation rate. It shouldn't play in and be any factor at all in what's going on. But with the government printing out money, how do you see that playing into prices of things and things in the future as that trend in the future plays out as well?
Yeah. Well, first of all, another great question. I don't know how we can double the money supply and not have inflation. I just don't.
I'm with you. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, right. So, but I think the government, they're not going to tell you, hey, we're going to have double-digit inflation, right?
True.
So
yeah, they're not going to say that on TV ever. That's not their jam.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think, I'm not surprised that they said that. Now, with that being said, they're going to do everything that they can to keep it at a minimum. And I remember in 2008 wondering, because we did a big bailout then.
Yeah.
I was wondering, well, why didn't we see higher inflation? And the question, I think it was John Paulson. I was on a call with him, and he said, well, because it's in everybody's savings account. It's not in circulation. Now, I don't know that that's going to happen here.
Yeah.
But in order for things to inflate, it has to be in circulation. And
Interesting.
And also, this is a
look at that.
worldwide issue.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 70% of the world deals in U.S. dollars. And so if we buy something from China, we actually pay them in U.S. dollars, which they don't want. I mean, they just don't want them. Who would want U.S. dollars right now after we just, injected so much
gave
money?
this giant bailout? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But with that being said, I do think that if I was on this call, that the one thing that I would want to really do is just really dig into what can I do to be inflation adjusted. In other words, what could I buy or what could I invest in that would hedge inflation? And that's actually I think what people should be focused on. And one of those things, oddly enough, it's debt.
Yeah. I mean, I've learned that from you guys. Between playing the cash flow game and just understanding what you guys have talked about, is that that's that $100,000, that $1 million that could be sitting in somebody's savings account. It could be $100 sitting in somebody's savings account. If that's going to go down, to your point on the bank accounts, right, is that $100,000 sitting in a bank account is going to be worth less. Not like it's going to literally go down more, but it will have less buying power. But on that same side, on the other side, if that's $100,000 in debt, it'll be that much easier to pay that $100,000 off because the price of things will be going up in all those other areas. So I'm catching you say this in here, and again, this has been your standing advice the whole time I've known you, is that, again, unlike what some other financial quote gurus have said in the space, that debt is bad, debt is a great way to mitigate your inflation risk. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Well, it's one way. And, if you can cover it with a renter, like we're doing, then that's what I would call good debt. But, here's what I always tell people, how much was your childhood home?
Yeah.
Just go back to that, whatever that is. Because I know it's a lot less than it was today.
That's right.
And so that's what inflation did. My mom and my dad. My dad passed. My mom still lives in literally the childhood home I grew up in.
Oh man.
And she bought it for like $20,000, right? And it's worth like 300 and change or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's still in it, right? And that's where all of her wealth is, right? Because she was a hairdresser.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, she was. My mom for 50 years. You'll love this. My mom's 80. Let's see. She just turned 87, and she went in to renew her license, and they go, oh, you don't have to worry.
Don't worry about it.
You've had it for 50 years.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Huh.
but yeah, so she's in
I'll be
that same
darned.
home, and that's honestly where all her wealth is. And all she did was she paid that thing off when sometime while I was in junior high or something. I
Good for her.
remember where they were so happy, and that's it. And so that's, when you're looking at real estate, whether you leverage it or not, because they did get a loan to buy that house. If you can fix your debt. So in other words, let's say you buy a house today for 200 grand and you put a $150,000 loan on it, and you don't pay any of the loan back. It's still 150 in 10 years, and you're still in that house. You're going to pay it back with dollars that are worth less. And so that 150 is going down like inflation. As money devalues, so does your debt amount.
Interesting. Yeah. So the debt amount can actually go down over time, where your buying power of your savings account goes down. So does the debt. Interesting. So guys,
The debt number stays the same though.
right. Yeah. It'll still appear the same, right?
Yeah. The dollars that, are worth less.
Interesting. Well,
Ready?
dude, this has been tremendous. We are now another 50-minute video that hopefully Kiyosaki will tell everybody, you better go watch Ken's interview with Jason. I'm pretty confident he's paying attention to what I'm doing. Just kidding. But what I will say is, you guys, if you haven't shared this video yet, it's time to share the video. This is a super important detail that if any of you are looking at growing your wealth and trying to figure out how do you pay attention to what's happening and not just be distracted by all the other things that are happening right now, this truly has been valuable for me. Yeah, John said this info has been gold. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Jason. So yeah, thank you, John, for being on. And every single one of you guys that are watching this on Facebook, all of our different outlets, and on YouTube and on Instagram, thank you guys so much, because without you guys, these videos wouldn't be possible. Ken, I thank you so much for being on and just sharing your insights. Like I said, man, you are the most down-to-earth, awesome, billion-dollar real estate investor that I know, because I know so many billion-dollar real estate investors, but you're one of the most chill versions of, guys that I know that just are willing to share, willing to give. And I just love that you're a mission-driven person, because it just comes through in everything that you do. So thank you so much, man.
Yeah, my pleasure, Jason. Always great to see you, man.
Dude, so good to see you. All right, guys, take care. See you later. Have a great rest of your day, and stay tuned next week on the Visionary Show. I've got another really incredible guy who's going to be on. I've actually got a guy who is one of the Dragon's Den members, which is basically Shark Tank, but in Canada. I've got him on with me next week, so hang tight. I've got more great people coming up. Ken, dude, thanks so much for being on today.
My pleasure.
See you guys.